The Bill Myers Show on KMED and KCMD is powered by Day Electric. For new construction, remodels, design, build, and more, visit dayelectric.com. Join the show at 541-770-5633. That's 770-KMED. Here's Bill Myers.
12 minutes after 8. I'm pretty careful with how I approach social media for the most part because I know that there is not really free speech on social media. I have Facebook accounts and I have Twitter feeds and all the rest of it. I have friends who have been banned in Facebook. In fact, I recall, Lars got banned on Facebook. We know about that. Roger Fredenberg, another colleague of mine, he got banned on Facebook there for a while. Twitter will tend to do what's called shadow banning. I don't exactly understand the process, but still, it means that there's a lot of pressure being placed on anything which does not fall in line with the powers that be. And in the high-tech world, the powers that be are, for all intents and purposes, kind of proto-fascists, I guess. Sort of a mixture of fascism and crony capitalism because, they like to partner with government in many ways, too. I wanted to talk with a filmmaker, and he has a really interesting story to tell, David Rosler. How you doing this morning, David? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing well, Bill. Thanks very much for having me on.
Your website is davidrosler.com, and you are an East Coast producer, filmmaker, you're director, and you have a new film project. It's a kind of a faith-based movie project called Orbiter. Could you tell us a little bit about that, what that's all about first?
It's the purpose of it is to try to get the younger audiences to see the other side of the Christian faith story than that's ordinarily presented to them in the mainstream, which is negative. Christian films, they're all very well-intentioned, and some of them are quite good, and they make a great deal of money for their budgets. But they're becoming a little bit formulaic. They, it's usually about a couple whose marriage is in trouble, and someone's in the hospital. And we're trying to create a film that's a little bit more in the mainstream. And yet but
you're looking for something kind of creative because I kind of agree with you with some of the formulaic aspects of Christian film. I would also add this Christian worship music, the modern stuff. It's just not. It's not. It's not speaking to my spirit at times. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? I'm going to stay within my field of practice. Okay?
Gotcha. All right, I understand. So in other words, you're trying to do something modern. But spiritual, you're looking to punch all the buttons is what you're trying to do, correct?
Well, we're trying to break down the wall that exists between the Christian faith-based and the mainstream motion picture market so that people can go in, the average audiences, there'll be the scientific aspect, the science fiction aspect, the stereoscopic 3D aspect, the production value aspect.
So this is a 3D Christian.
It's live action, but it is a stereoscopic 3D. If they go to orbitermovie.com and you scroll down, if you either have a 3D TV or a 3D computer monitor or even old red-blue glasses, there are two versions of the 3D for presentation of the trailer right there on the website. So there it is, yeah. It's not just what we would like to do, it's what we are doing.
And this is is it a science fiction movie or is it more of a political thriller? I mean, how would you describe the genre?
Because it takes place on the International Space Station, you're going to get purists within the motion picture industry who are going to label it as science fiction. But its tone and tenor is really more like a Tom Clancy thriller that just happens to take place on the International Space Station.
I'm liking the idea already. So your job then as a producer and a director trying to get this project going, besides writing a good story, and you have to get financial backing. Isn't that the deal?
Well, of course, yeah. What we're calling it completion funding because a great deal of the production, including getting the visual effects across the board at a level where they need to be. And by and large, we've been compared very favorably to Gravity in that respect. And of course, that was a $100 million film that won 7 Academy Awards and made $700 million worldwide. And there's a comparison page on orbitermovie.com also. But yes, we We need to raise the funding. It's very minimal for this, really pocket change for this kind of film, $240,000.
That's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things here, David.
No, it really isn't. And social media has shut us down. And thanks to Project Veritas, which is sort of an undercover journalistic operation where they infiltrate these places like Acorn and in this case also Twitter, and they schmooze and they get to know the people, the movers and shakers, in this case the engineers at Twitter.
And they end up telling the truth about how they dial people back, don't they?
Not just dial them back, but I mean just wholesale massive censorship, where they say, just look at, they're politically oriented. They're politically oriented. But in that political prejudice that they have, with which they misuse their power entirely, deliberately. And I don't mean 3 or 4 people. I mean on Project Veritas undercover videos show these people saying that they're like 400, 500 people at least, and they use the term, at least, working for Twitter, being paid 400 or 500 people whose job it is to sit there and basically violate U.S. Code, Title 18, Section 241, which makes it a federal crime to conspire to deny anyone a constitutional right. In this case, the First Amendment. It's insane.
Let me query you on this. Let me query you a bit on this one, though.
Yeah.
You talk about it. Yeah, your First Amendment right. Yeah. Here's the problem, and this is the challenge I have with social media. We're Facebook living this conversation right now. They are ostensibly a private company, and then one can say the government is not restricting your freedom of speech there. A private company that you agree to their terms of service is. So how would you respond to that?
I would say the assumption is incorrect.
Okay. How so?
A private company cannot trump federal law to begin with. Terms of service, if you were to try to make that case, must be laid out right on the surface, and it isn't. It's usually buried in the most obscure semantics imaginable, in the finest of the print, buried under a huge long page, which it is entirely unreasonable to assume anyone is going to read through before they use the service. And reasonable is the key, because the law is based not on parsing of semantics, it's based on the perspective of a reasonable person. That's why we have judges. A judge is supposed to render a verdict of how the law is interpreted based on the view of a reasonable person. That's, if we don't have that, we don't have a judicial system.
I do understand that, David. All I would say, though, is, as an example, it's
not reasonable to assume that people are going to read that fine print.
That may be the case, and so there may be a legal case to discuss that there. But I know, as an example, there are private property rights involved, and at this point, Facebook and Twitter are not public utilities, although I think that ostensibly or effectively they're really becoming that these days.
Well, they're monopolies.
Here at the radio station, as an example, even though I have the freedom of speech to be able to address my government and right of redress and all the rest of it, I can't just go on my show and say absolutely anything I want and escape the consequences or not have them censor me. So why is that any different from, let's say, Twitter and or Facebook? And understand, I'm sympathetic because, I think they are dialing you back. I have no doubt they're trying to suppress your project.
Right. Well, and I don't see your point of view in these questions as being hostile.
Okay.
To our cause. I think it's a good discussion to have to clear the air on it. What is explained in the Project Veritas videos, what's laid bare, is that their motivations are malicious, and intent is a great deal of the interpretation of the law. If someone does something by accident, they're not held responsible. If it's a premeditated act, the same act can be massively criminal and lead someone to prison for the rest of their lives. What they're doing is with malicious intent. They make that absolutely clear. Absolutely clear. And the thing is, they're doing it on such a wholesale basis that I think even progressive Christians, not conservative Christians, social and political progressive Christians should be alarmed, because when you hear the way these people talk, they write algorithms that look for keywords. And in the words of one of the people, two of those words are God or an image of a cross, in this case, intelligent recognition, an image of a cross. And if you've got God and a cross going on your thing, you're going to be lumped in with Trump supporters, and you're going to be taken off the grid as well.
So here you are, David Rosler, a conservative Christian, a filmmaker, trying to get the completion funding here. So I would imagine you're making your pitch via social media. And is there evidence that they have throttled you? Or, and now the other thing I would add is that Facebook is in business to make money, and they're always trying to say, all right, hey, you've reached these many people this morning on your live feed today, Bill Meyer. Give me $20 and send it to, 50,000 more people in Southern Oregon. It's sort of their business model. Are you concerned that your organic reach, that nobody's hearing from you, or that they're asking you for money to promote this? Any thoughts on that?
No. We've never been approached for money. They're censoring. Once again, the Project Veritas videos, which, if you're not familiar with it, you can actually go to Orbit.
We're very familiar. Most of the people are here of how they do this. Yeah, we understand. They have these algorithms. They dial you back, and not as many people get to see you. We get that.
We get nothing. No, you don't understand. If you go to orbitermovie.com and look at the Twitter page, we have there's a tab that says Twitter, the word Twitter on it. You click it, and the whole story is laid bare. You'll see examples of my own tweets where I get 22, 18, 11 likes and retweets on things that have nothing to do with Orbiter. Don't use the word God, don't have cross, don't have the Orbiter artwork, none of that. Anything with Orbiter in it gets 0. Doesn't get 1 or 2. It gets nothing.
So people just don't see it, period.
Well, that's shadow banning. What they do is they set it up so that you see yourself, and maybe your close associates see you, but no one else sees you.
And by the way, Orbiter, if you go to orbitermovie.com, you can see the screenshot, or it looks like a movie poster, kind of a online version of the movie poster, and it's Orbiter, kind of a science fiction motif, and it could be Star Wars for all that matter, that same kind of feel. But the T you have in the shape of a Christian cross made of light. Right. And something tells me that the anti-God Twitter and Facebook types are looking at that and say, okay, this goes in the dumpster. We shadow ban this guy, right?
Completely. To believe that people just, and we've had, there are trolls. There are malicious people who work within Twitter to harass and defame you. Without question, because we've had people say things to us, chiding, destructive remarks that made it clear that they were reading our DMs. And now we find out through Project Veritas that people say, oh, yeah, we sit there and we read people's DMs, which means anybody's reading the DMs.
Well, what's the DM again? What's the Oh, it's a direct message.
Direct message, like a private message. That instead of PM, it's a DM in Twitter. And so there's no question that the people who have been openly antagonistic, who have been defaming the project, who have been actually, if you go on the Twitter page, you can see tweets where certain people have threatened our associate producer's life and implied that they were going to hurt her family and her kids by grabbing pictures from her Facebook page and tweeting them and saying, this isn't such a good idea for you to be here, Kathy. And then there's a picture of her kids and her grandkids.
Okay, David, why would people be threatening you, trying to make a live-action 3D Christian-themed space movie, named Orbiter, kind of a Tom Clancy type thing on the international space? Why are they so threatened by this? That you would have people? What are they? King? Oh, this is that Sky Buddy movie producer, some sort of derisive term. What's the end game here?
it seems to be just a bunch of psychopaths who have been emboldened by their immediate culture in San Francisco to be on a jihad against Christians and conservatives for the purpose of social engineering. They apparently think that they're enjoying, the power trip. Obviously, they're enjoying the sadism, since trolls are clinically defined by some group in Canada, huge study, as being essentially having what's called the dark triad of a personality: Machiavellianism, narcissism, and sadism. That's what a troll is. And these people are, to various levels, very clearly trolls. And their bosses at Twitter obviously are directing them to. I mean, here they were caught on Project Veritas, and all Twitter said was, as a response of which I'm aware, is that they were very unhappy with the the sneaky tactics used by Project Veritas. And
they're not unhappy the fact that they have a bunch of social justice warriors making the decision what everybody sees. They're more concerned the fact that somebody caught them doing their evil deeds is what they're concerned about.
Exactly. No contrition. No, we're going to clean house. No, this is a terrible thing. No, we didn't know about this. We on the top are completely innocent. They actually doubled down. They want to keep going the way they're going. They want to keep censoring Christians, and all they're doing is denying the evidence that's in front of everybody's eyes by saying it was selectively edited. And anybody who watches the Project Veritas videos can see there's no selective editing about it. You have big, long blocks of conversation where the context of these remarks is absolutely 100% clear.
So, David, what do we do to help you? What do you see then as a potential solution for this? Because, yeah, we get it. We have a hard left digital, I don't know. Well, it's a hard left digital Soviet. That's what we're enduring at this point. I'm even surprised that President Trump gets as much retweeting and Twitter interest, given the hatred for him on that. Of course, maybe they love to hate him.
The Project Veritas videos, they say that they hate him, and they say that the company is split as to whether or not they should leave him on or throw him off. The President of the United States, they sit there quite openly and say, we sort of decide we should leave him on, but most of us would like to see him go on. It's insane. Absolutely nuts.
Fair enough, but what do you see? What do you see as a solution or a call to action that you would like people to get involved? Because I think what you're looking to do is to grab the White House's attention on this. Correct?
Yes. It would be great if everybody on everyone listening, call the White House. If you go to orbitermovie.com, you go to the bottom of the Twitter page, you'll see the telephone numbers for the White House, and call them. And there's a link to email them, and go on social media, go on those very venues, go on Twitter, go on Facebook, and say that you're demanding. Not wouldn't it be nice, but be angry. Show them your passion. Tell them we demand that President Trump, during his State of the Union address, based on the Project Veritas videos, which have the evidence now. I mean, they should be as big as CBS News at this point for what they've done. And call out Twitter for its behavior, its reckless, perhaps even criminal behavior at the State of the Union, the one time in the year where he's not going to be censored and where he's not going to be selectively edited. Get on the phone, call the White House, get on Facebook, get on Twitter, tell the president, we want you, because if you do it, you won't just express the idea. You'll give him the political cover he needs to say it, and that's the important part, because he can get up there and say, I've been deluged the White House has been deluged with phone calls and emails and faxes, what have you, social media saying that I need to call out Twitter because of what Project Veritas exposed. They're there, they're cutting off people's voices, they're not free speech, they're terrible, and if that happens, then you've got a worldwide audience of something like 1 billion people hearing it, plus anybody else who watches the speech on YouTube, and that'll get, tens of millions of hits. views, then you've got about all the pressure you can possibly put on a company to change its ways. And so I hope every one of your listeners goes to orbitermovie.com, click on the Twitter button on the right of the poster, go to the bottom of the page. You don't have to read the whole thing if you want. Just go to the bottom of the page and call those numbers to the White House. Get on the phone. One of them is bound to be busy. Call the other one. There are two numbers. You click. There's a form to fill out on the whitehouse.gov where you can send them an email. You can certainly go to Real Donald Trump on Twitter, at Real Donald Trump, or at POTUS, P-O-T-U-S, and let them know. And just everybody, get out there. Don't be shy.
Are you looking for,
yeah.
Okay, David, are you looking for an antitrust kind of response from the federal government in which, all right.
Absolutely.
You are? Okay, so you're actually hoping that the big Fed gorilla in the room ends up getting involved in Silicon Valley finally. I mean, or yanking some chains here. Is that what you're looking at? Rattle the cage?
Congress calls companies in all the time if they're manufacturing something which is deficient and harmful to the public good. I mean, they'll call entire companies and say, you have more blowouts than you're supposed to each year. How are you going to fix the blowouts in your tires? Now, if they're going to do that, then certainly, because it isn't just censorship. It isn't just, I can't say what I want to say. In today's world, businesses rely on it. They rely on Facebook. They rely on Twitter. Those two places have everybody in the world ensconced within their walls. Almost no other social media platform makes any dent in the size and scale of their influence, and they're ruining businesses. They're ruining businesses. They're ruining...
David, I see where you're coming from. I get that then. All right? Yeah. So there's the call to action. We will link to your information, of course, and I get involved in this myself. Now, before we take off here, did you have something you wanted to play over the phone? I was told by my call screener that there was something. Did you get that? Did you get that set up from your movie?
No. There was a misunderstanding there.
Okay.
I will say this, however. And here I'm passing the plate among the congregation. We can't be seen on social media. We've even had a couple of our crowdfunders hacked. Somebody got into it and changed. This is no joke. They changed the link so that it went to a 404 instead of the page. Somebody put an extra alphanumeric digit in there in the middle of the code. So what we've got up now is we've got PayPal buttons, which I just put up. And you know what? Maybe you could lead the way on this. Put $10 in and say, I challenge everybody out there to match it, because we need. I'm holding this thing together with my fingernails at this point. It's unbelievable. And again, if you go to the Twitter page, there are examples where you can see my tweets. Have nothing to do with Orbiter.
And you are shadow banned. You are one of those people shadow banned.
I'm not shadow banned. Anything with Orbiter is shadow banned.
Wow.
Anything with Orbiter is shadow banned. You can see my tweets. Just last night, I made a thing about gun control in a thread with Alyssa Milano, one of her threads. And within an hour, I had 22 likes and a few retweets. I put Orbiter into the same thread, 0. And we're supposed to believe that a movie with those kind of production values, nobody shows any interest, no critics. When is it going to come out? I love the actors. I hate the actors. The special effects are great. The special effects are terrible.
The last thing that the left wants in this, the high-tech left, is a high-tech, beautifully done, well-scripted, great action film with Christian and sci-fi values in it, right? That's the bottom line. They don't want that out there. They don't want people seeing that.
Well, we've also made it clear that we have a bit. Yes, we've also made it clear that we have a bit of an agenda, and that is, it isn't just one movie. With the proceeds from the film, which should match the proceeds of the other films that you see out there, like Fireproof, where we get to keep the money because at least one theater chain has accepted me as the distributor because I was able to meet their technical criteria, means that we keep that money ordinarily that goes to the confiscatory distributor, and we want to build a whole studio in Tennessee. I have 3 more polished and budgeted screenplays, and when we're not on the stage, we want to let other Christian filmmakers use the stage and the crew for nothing. And that may be the agenda part of it that they don't want to see happen.
David,
but
I'm sorry.
I think maybe your listeners would love to see that happen.
All right, David, I really appreciate the take on that, and thanks for coming on the show. And I didn't realize that when it came to this this movie project, this Christian movie project, this 3D science, 3D live action, that nothing gets through. Nothing. It is if if Orbiter fails in the theater, would anybody hear it? Where it falls in it's just a total shutdown. And you do have the details on this. Orbitermovie.com is the website, and we'll get your other information up there too. And you're hoping people get in President Trump's face about this, and maybe he has the bully pulpit and the power to actually affect some change in here. Thank you so much for being on the show, and I'm sorry for your trouble there. Really, I am.
Well, thanks very much for having me on. I really appreciate the shout-out, too.
838, FM 106.7, FM 99.3, KCMD and KMED in Medford.